The House Oversight Subcommittee just released a damning new report accusing Liz Cheney of witness tampering during the January 6th investigation. That's not a minor charge. We're talking about allegations of secret communications with a key witness, Cassidy Hutchinson, without her lawyer's knowledge, and pushing for testimony revisions that conveniently contradicted other evidence. And if this is true, Liz Cheney could face up to 20 years in prison. Dun, dun, dun. What's interesting is this is exactly what she accused Trump of 2.5 years ago. Watch this.
For her testimony today. We are all in her debt. Our nation is preserved by those who abide by their oaths to our Constitution. Our nation is preserved by those who know the fundamental difference between right and wrong. And I want all Americans to know that what Ms. Hutchinson has done today is not easy. The easy course is to hide from the spotlight, to refuse to come forward, to attempt to downplay or deny what happened. That brings me to a different topic. While our committee has seen many witnesses, including many Republicans, testify fully and forthrightly, this has not been true of every witness. And we have received evidence of one particular practice that raises significant concern. Our committee commonly asks witnesses connected to Mr. Trump's administration or campaign whether they've been contacted by any of their former colleagues or anyone else who attempted to influence or impact their testimony. Without identifying any of the individuals involved, let me show you a couple of samples of answers we received to this question. First, here's how one witness described phone calls from people interested in that witness's testimony. Quote, "What they said to me is as long as I continue to be a team player, they know I'm on the right team. I'm doing the right thing. I'm protecting who I need to protect. You know I'll continue to stay in good graces in Trump world. And they have reminded me a couple of times that Trump does read transcripts, and just keep that in mind as I proceed through my interviews with the committee." Here's another sample in a different context. This is a call received by one of our witnesses. Quote, "A person let me know you have your deposition tomorrow. He wants me to let you know he's thinking about you. He knows you're loyal and you're going to do the right thing when you go in for your deposition." I think most Americans know that attempting to influence witnesses to testify untruthfully presents very serious concerns. We will be discussing these issues as a committee, carefully considering our next steps. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I yield back.
So there's Liz Cheney accusing Trump of doing the very thing that now it has been uncovered that Liz Cheney was doing. What's the evidence? What has happened here? Let's break this down. So Cassidy Hutchinson is an ex-aide to, at the time, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows under the Trump administration. Cheney is accused, and Cassidy gave testimony during this January 6th hearing. Cassidy gave kind of a bombshell testimony claiming that Donald Trump was furious when his limousine was not going to take him to the Capitol. He demanded to be taken to the Capitol and that the limousine refused to do it. And he lunged for the steering wheel and he essentially assaulted Secret Service. Secret Service later came out and said that was absolutely not true. Cassidy Hutchinson was completely mistaken about which vehicle and that Donald Trump never was angry and he never attacked Secret Service. So there was a number of different eyewitnesses who countered Cassidy Hutchinson's claims. But Cheney is accused of communicating with Cassidy Hutchinson via Signal, which is an encrypted app, and that she was talking to her on this encrypted app in June of about 20 days before her June 2022 testimony. Records revealed that Cheney and Hutchinson used the app to swap messages to arrange phone calls over the app. And we don't know what the voice calls said. We don't know what was said during those voice calls. But one message that was during the actual messaging on the Signal app showed Cassidy Hutchinson providing Cheney with a screenshot of her then attorney suggesting she not cooperate with the panel. The report, which was released, once again, this was released by a House committee. It was like 700 and some odd pages, or no, sorry, it was a 127-page report. The report recommends that the FBI investigate whether Liz Cheney violated federal laws against secret communications with Hutchinson and whether she engaged in procuring another person to commit perjury. Based on the evidence obtained by the subcommittee, numerous federal laws were likely broken by Liz Cheney, and these violations should be investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the report states. The report also casts doubt on Hutchinson's credibility, suggesting her testimony about then-President Donald Trump's alleged attempt to seize control of his presidential limousine was refuted by Secret Service officials, which it was. Further, it says Cheney encouraged Hutchinson to revise her testimony using an errata sheet where significant changes were made, including details that ended up contradicting other evidence that was obtained by the committee. The 127-page report claims there is evidence of collusion between special counsel Jack Smith and now defunct January 6th committee. It highlights the release of an unredacted witness transcript in Smith's filings for a Trump-related case, raising questions about how the document was even obtained. The report further criticizes the Select Committee's failure to preserve over a terabyte of investigative data, including video recordings of witness interviews. It also revisits findings that then Speaker Nancy Pelosi had acknowledged shortcomings in Capitol security and that the Department of Defense officials delayed National Guard deployment despite Trump's standing orders, citing unaired footage as part of an HBO documentary being produced by her daughter. Cheney told NBC News on Sunday, 2 days before the Oversight Subcommittee's report, that Trump's suggestion that lawmakers who investigated the events following his 2020 election defeat is a, quote, continuation of his assault on the rule of law and the foundations of our republic. So she's, it's like it's definitely, what is the term? It just slipped my mind it's projection, right? It's a projection when you're blaming somebody else for something you're actually doing. And we all know that these investigations into Trump throughout his presidency and after his presidency were a sham and a giant waste of taxpayer dollars, from the Mueller investigation and Russiagate to the January 6th investigation claiming that it was some sort of an insurrection. This was all just a giant sham and a giant waste of taxpayer money, a giant waste of everything. And Democrats still lost in the end. They lost everything. They lost the White House. They lost Congress. This gained them nothing but shame, total mud on their face. And now it's come out when the investigators investigated the investigation that they potentially fabricated stuff, made things more sensational, and potentially even broke laws that could result in 20 years in prison. That's what Liz Cheney is potentially facing. Now, of course, she's probably going to get a preemptive pardon. This had already been discussed by the Biden administration. Joe Biden has just over a month now to offer preemptive pardons to people like Thompson and Liz Cheney. And that might be necessary. And it looks like they're probably going to be offered, would be my guess. Trump said on NBC's Meet the Press earlier this month, he says, quote, I think those people committed a major crime. Liz Cheney was behind it. So was Benny Thompson. Everybody on that committee for what they did, yeah, honestly, they should go to jail. So especially now with this oversight committee coming out with this report and accusing Liz Cheney of, I mean, look, they have the receipts of her contacting this witness via Signal app. That's pretty damning. That's pretty damn damning. So yeah, I mean, what were you doing as an investigator contacting a witness like this and then going and publicly accusing Donald Trump of it? She not only accused Donald Trump of it during the video clip that we just showed you, but she also accused him, she made media rounds like on Good Morning America and was accusing him of witness tampering during that entire time. Meanwhile, she was there chatting with witnesses on a Signal app, arranging phone calls. What was said during those damn phone calls? Liz Cheney should go to jail. I mean, this is the type of stuff that they were throwing all of the Trump associates in jail or charging them with crimes, from Steve Bannon to Michael Flynn to anybody they could get, Paul Manafort, anybody they could get their hands on. And yet no Democrats have served any time or been charged with any crimes. And yet they have duped the American people. They have wasted our tax dollars. They have lied. They have broken laws, and none of them are. And Liz Cheney's not a Democrat. Have to clarify that she is a Republican, or was. Who knows what she is now? And they get away with this. I mean, this is an absolute sham. And they're sitting here saying that they're upholding the rule of law. They're the ones who are protecting democracy. They're the ones who are. I mean, they're the ones who have destroyed democracy. They have unraveled just everything it's all a projection. Everything they claim that they're protecting from free speech and democracy, and yet they're the ones who are trying to silence and censor misinformation. They're the ones who are trying to shut down democracy by saying, well, we can't have an election and actually vote in a primary because we have to defeat Donald Trump because he's going to ruin democracy. So you can't vote. No voting, everybody. You have to have Kamala Harris. I mean, we are just so fed up. And then they wonder why they've lost so badly. Bernie Sanders, he has come out and said that people like Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, everybody on that January 6th committee, he said yesterday that Biden should very seriously consider dishing out some preemptive pardons for the former January 6th committee members. Why would Bernie Sanders here's an independent, he's supposed to be an independent, but he's really just like a Democrat shill. Why would you be pushing for one, pardons shouldn't even exist. Quite honestly, they shouldn't even exist. This is an archaic idea that harkens back to monarchies, kings and queens doing whatever they want and letting criminals get away with literal whatever they can get away with just by the wave of a wand. I pardon you. You are no longer a criminal. They shouldn't exist, but they do exist. I understand they exist. And I understand that every president ends up dishing these out to all of their friends and family members and allies and whoever, but it's wrong. It's fundamentally unethical. It's really, truly against the whole notion of the United States of America. It's against what we're supposed to stand for: rule of law, justice, that nobody is above the law. That should just be an American sentiment. But nonetheless, we have these stupid pardons. Why is Bernie Sanders even pushing for pardons for anybody at all? He shouldn't be pushing for pardons. He certainly shouldn't be pushing for pardons when it is obvious that people have committed crimes. He instead should be saying this needs to be investigated and people should be held accountable. That's the right thing to say. That's the non-political thing to say. That's the thing you say about everybody. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle they're on. If they've committed a crime, they should be held accountable. They should be investigated and held accountable. The fact that we have this system of covering up for one another and failing to actually investigate or hold people accountable, like when Anthony Fauci actually committed perjury and Rand Paul called him out, and yet nothing was ever done about that, that is how you end up in a failed state. That is how we reel into a banana republic, a failed state. It's by not upholding the rule of law, allowing for people to get away with things like this. That is how you turn into a failed nation. And we are well on our way towards that as we continue to go down this hyper-political, hyper-partisan path where people, they run cover for their buddies and they refuse to charge people, their buddies, with crimes. All of these cover-ups, people are sick of it. We are sick of it. We want our country back, the country that we thought we had. Maybe we've never had it. Maybe the United States of America has always been a sham idea, and maybe we've all been duped, but we would certainly like to hold on to the idea that we were all born and raised with, and we would like that country, whatever that country is that we were sold. We want that country. But the reality is really kind of slapping us in the face of what's going on here. So look, I don't think that Joe Biden should be dishing out any pardons at all. I don't think Trump should dish out any pardons either. I understand, however, that there is such a thing as political persecution. It is completely wrong, but we should be persecuting those who politically persecute. The right thing to do is to make that a crime in and of itself, and to go after those who try to politically persecute others. Like Liz Cheney, she should be held accountable. I'm not in favor of the pardon, but I think she's going to be getting it. And that, I think, is extremely unfortunate.